Didn't I just do this? What's going on here? Who are you people? Where are my legs? Welcome back to another episode of A Tanker's View with me, your average tanker, Tony. This week, we are going to look at the Astares Predator Tank because why the heck not? I needed something easy this week, but you know what else is easy? Subscribing, liking the video, leaving a comment. God, I'm getting smooth at this. This probably won't be a lengthy video as this is really so straightforward a child could do it. Seriously, look at this thing. G-Dubs is just getting all of the miles it can out of the venerable M113.
You son of a bitch.
So initially I was going to do the Rhino because it was next on my list and then the Predator after that. But Emperor choked me with a Dark Elder strap on. It turns out that that's just a Rhino with extra steps.
No shit.
So guess what? I'm going to do both at the same time. All joking aside, it makes more sense to do both at once because, well, I'm not that hard up for content yet. Give it a few years. Now, moving along, this shares so much with the M113 it is uncanny. It's nice to know that if I'm ever brought back as a cloned servitor in the grim derp of the 42nd millennium, I'm still going to know how to drive that Rhino. Pretty standard on the specifications, between 3.6 and 4.4 meters tall, 6.6 meters long, and between 4.5 and 6 meters wide. It's really not much on the imagination in its current incarnation. Hey, that rhymed. Hey, let's change that. Now, my biggest bitch about this boxy boy on tracks is the name. G-Dubs, come here. Listen. Take heed. Just because it has a turret and a gun on tracks doesn't make it a tank. You see this here? This is a tank gun on a tank. You see this? This is a tank gun on not a tank. And you see this here? This is an autocannon on a tracked vehicle. Also not a tank. I am sure my audience is more than smart enough, being the legends that they are, to know that the second one is an IFV. Same with the third one. I know the gun on the Predator is done in epic scale. However, it is still not a tank gun. But if I were to be as generous as possible and say maybe it's 50 millimeters and it holds 120 rounds on board according to the spec pages I found on the interwebs, if I were to assume that these are telescoping shells to conserve space, and it's likely mechanically driven given that most autocannons are, I could reasonably assume it has a fire rate of 20 to 30 rounds a minute maximum and likely 10 to 20 rounds a minute sustained. While providing excellent direct fire to support Space Marines who employ it, it falls well short of a main tank gun round in terms of punch. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I subscribe to the Ryan Macbeth method of identifying a tank. A tank should be able to take a tank round to the face and throw one right back. It's certainly got the armor to take one or two good hits from a main gun round due to the armor configuration of Astartes vehicles, but 50mm falls well short of being able to toss that kind of firepower back. It's just only so much explosives you can pack into a shell. That's just science. For all intents and purposes, it's only a third of a powerful as an assault cannon round, the primary for a Russ. Suitable really only for medium cover to medium and light armor. Now, for those of you fiercely typing in the comments about rate of fire overcoming the lack of power, let me cut you a little scenario. Spin you a yarn, as it were. Pull up a seat and let Dad tell you a story for the sake of comparison. Let's say you have two weapons available to you when you're under attack. A general purpose machine gun and a heavy machine gun. They both essentially fire the same type of ammunition. Full metal jacket, we'll just say for the sake of argument. One is a 7.62, one is 50. Now, you're engaging a target behind light armored cover. You decide you want to grab a GPMG because you want to fire twice as much and twice as fast as an HMG. So you grab it first and let off the 200 round belt. Sure, you're going to degrade the armor as you pour fire into the same area, but it lacks the oomph to get all the way through. So now you have to go back and grab the heavy machine gun and start chugging rounds into that cover. Sure, it fires slower and it's a little harder to aim, but when it hits, it immediately starts carving dime-sized holes and fist-sized exit holes through that lab cover. When it comes to firepower, size matters.
All right, I'm gonna go cry.
If it doesn't have the punch to go through the first time, it's not likely you're going to get it the second time. Unless, of course, you've got Matt Ward levels of plot armor, in which case you'll probably just pour and keyhole the first impact point as many times as necessary to win. There's always going to be a trade-off in rate of fire for a single barrel autocannon the further you go up in size. The larger the round, the slower the gun will have to fire. This gives time for the fire control system to compensate for recoil, allow gases to be evacuated between shots so you don't cook off the next round, but it also has to do with dwell time and bolt travel and how the round is ejected from the gun. There's also not an unsubstantial loss in round velocity when you increase the round size from 3,800 feet per second for a 20mm to 3,000 feet per second approximately for a 50mm. Granted, most of this means less than their own dicks to the Astares.
Daddy, chill.
They're going to drive this straight into the proverbial ass of their enemy. Wait, do orcs have asses? Or even shit? Well, I figure those pointy-eared dandies and their degenerate cousins do. Hell, the Dark Elder probably got entire bridges made of human centipedes at this point.
Why are you the way that you are?
Anyway, right, where was I? Firepower. So they're going to drive this thing straight into hordes of enemies with all guns blazing. That's the Space Marine style. Kinda like this. So they're probably more prepared to deal with the endless hordes of wheat, or what we call soft targets, or crunchies, or track grease if they are particularly rotund. Plague Marines, I'm looking at you. So an autocannon makes sense in that regard. So it maybe gets a small pass, just the tiniest, but I would scale it down in size and maybe add a second one, giving you more ammunition, which you can thoroughly perforate the Emperor's enemies. Hell, the blast radius on a 20mm is still 10 to 12 feet for regular high explosive today, and the rate of fire is substantially higher. But then we're going to get a challenger from a very unlikely source of brilliance. The Space Wolves. Because here comes the Predator Annihilator, swapping out everything for las cannons. Lots and lots and lots of las cannons, allowing them to effectively engage heavy armor in a tank hunter role, as well as possessing the rapid firepower to literally scythe down hordes of even the most heavily armored infantry. And my personal favorite is the ball pattern, because to me personally, if I were jumping cod piece first into hordes of enemies, I want something that looks like it will actually be able to keep up a rate of fire and keep that moving green carpet of bad Cockney accents at bay.
Stop it. Get some help.
Anyways, I've spent an awful long time talking about what's up top and less about what's on his, her, whatever's flanks. That's because at this point we know that the Imperium's just going to slap sponsons on it because, much like their fun counterparts, the filthy greenskins, the Imperium always says more DACA.
It's a machine gun! Machine gun!
Guns on everything. Grunts, tanks, mobility scooters, churches, you name it, it is armed. Hey, as long as I'm not the one humping the ammo, it's an unhealthcare plan I can get behind. But I think that's all I'm going to wax heretical about this subject today. If you've made it this far into the video, you are an absolute legend. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. You guys rock.